Hey y'all, welcome back to Big Jake's Garden, and today we are talking tomatoes. So what we're covering today is how to plant them, what kind you want, and some tips and tricks to grow them to have your best garden season and harvest a lot of tomatoes this year. So stay tuned, and we're going to start with picking a variety. So I'm picking a variety. You got about three options. You got slicing tomatoes like for sandwiches, you got sauce or paste tomatoes to can, and then you got cherry tomatoes, kind of like these golden nuggets here. Another thing you want to choose if you want a determinate or an indeterminate tomato. And what that means is a determinate tomato is more of a bush. You probably need less trellis, but I'd still recommend trellis in those. But an indeterminate tomato is just going to vine until it's done. So that's your other choice there. But first of all, you got to pick your variety. If you want to trellis a lot or you trellis a little, pick a bush or a vining tomato, or indeterminate, non-determinate, however you want to say it. Bush versus vine's a lot easier, but that's part of picking your variety. Okay, so you've been in the greenhouse, you bought your tomatoes, and now you got to do some little tune-up before you put them in the ground. So I'll show you what I do before I plant my tomatoes. So I'll take this golden nugget here out of the pack, and you'll see all these little vines going up the tomato. Well, you don't need them, so you can just pop them off like so. You can use scissors if you want to be more cautious, but you can take all these down here. So now you have a nice little tree basically. And then when you go to plant these tomatoes, which I'll show here in a second, you'll plant these about this deep where my fingers are, because if you look real close, if I can get it to work, all these little hairs and stuff will basically be roots. So when you put them in the ground, these hairs will come out and pretty much make a stronger, sturdier tomato, because you'll essentially have roots and a bigger base grabbing the ground. So now we're here in our little raised bed here in front of the greenhouses. We're going to plant this golden nugget. So got our tomato, got it stripped. I don't know what to do with my trowel, so I'm just going to use my hands because, you know, why not? We're going to dig that hole. Another good tip, always break your roots up so they get a little more air to breathe. We'll put this down in here, and then we'll cover it back up. Make sure you pack it down real good. Keep it watered, but don't keep it soaked. And we'll have fresh tomatoes within, I don't know, probably 60 days, if that. Cherry tomatoes produce pretty fast, so we should be seeing cherries within a few weeks. So that's essentially how you plant these tomatoes, and I'll get a closer view here. You can see how it's down here all deep on the stem, and these will grow up, and when this gets bigger, you'll probably start taking these bottom ones off because they'll end up just making vines instead of tomatoes. So here's a good example of pruning. I pruning these tomatoes about 2 weeks ago, and they've grown up a good bit. So these about the same size as the other one. They've already grown probably half a foot since we've got the rain. But earlier, I had stems here, 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 and here. And I took them off to have just kind of one big canopy here on top. And you can see we got some blooms about to start right here. So I'll have tomatoes pretty soon off of this. And the less foliage you have, not all foliage, but the less foliage you have, the bigger your tomatoes will be, because the plant's going to put more effort into making your tomato versus making bigger vines to get more sunlight. So that's why we trim and prune from the bottom, to keep a nice top canopy so you have bigger and fresher and better tomatoes, instead of kind of a watery or like ping pong ball size when it's supposed to be a big slicer. So now you've done the easy part. You've put the tomatoes in the ground. So the next step is the maintenance and growing them to have a great harvest. So first thing you'll probably need to do is add some trellis. Whether it's a regular step-in post you can get from like Lowe's, T-posts, tomato cage, whatever you want to use, highly recommend using trellis. Super simple. Just do it like every other week as your tomatoes grow. You can see how they're doing. If they're just trying to curl over or anything like that, just keep them trellis and they'll keep you healthy. Next thing is, when you do plant them, I highly recommend putting some kind of calcium in the ground with them, whether it be a Tums, powdered milk, or even CalMag fertilizer. And when you do fertilize, I also recommend adding like a tablespoon of Epsom salt to the gallon, What the Epsom salt does is adds magnesium. That magnesium helps your roots grow, so you have better food intake and water intake for your plant, essentially making a healthier plant. So calcium, magnesium, fertilize. I would either fertilize once a week or every other week, depending on what kind of time you got. Just don't overdo it. Always water around the plant instead of on the plant, because if you water on the plant, it'll probably end up taking up too much and you'll end up getting burned, which you don't want either. So that's part of maintenance. So keep it trellis, keep it pruned, and keep it fertilized, and you'll have a happy plant and a happy harvest. Thanks for watching. Tune in, subscribe, like, share, all that fun stuff, and I appreciate it. And y'all have a good one.